Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is part 4 of our design to code project that we're currently working on the channel. This is our surf website. So we finished up our wireframe and our design, then we've exported our assets and then set up Sass using node.js. If you missed that, go back to the last video, part 3, link will be down in the description, and I show you how to set that up. So now that we have all that, we can head over to Visual Studio Code. And here you'll see I have the main Sass over here on the left, and then the main.css, and then the terminal open here in the bottom. Just in case you forgot, we need to make sure we're watching the Sass, and every time we save that, we want it to compile our CSS. So I'm going to input a command of Sass and say --watch, and then the name of my file, main.sass, and then a colon, and then main.css. So that's telling to map to the main.css. We just hit enter, and then we're good to go. So if we target, for example, the body tag, and we say a background color of, let's go with just red for now, and save that, you'll notice that it compiles that to CSS. So everything is set up and ready to go. So I'm just going to close this out, and let's go ahead and close this file as well. And we can just save our Sass file with nothing in it for now. And we're going to start with our index first, and then we're going to switch over to our Sass and begin to style that. So I'm going to close my terminal, and I'm going to hit Command N for a new file, hit Command S, and here we'll just name this index.html. Since I'm using Visual Studio Code, I can just use Emmet. If you don't have Emmet, just type it in your browser, and you can install it in most text editors, and it's going to allow you to do kind of a shorthand. So I'm just going to hit the exclamation point and hit enter, and that's going to give me all of my structure for my HTML document. I'm going to take this one tag out here because that's not actually needed anymore. And then we're going to name our document just surf period. Then we need to link to our main.css file that we're going to compile later on. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up that link, rel, and this is going to be a style sheet. And then we need to link to that href and then main.css. And then we can close that and save. So that's pretty much all we need in the head tag. So let's move on to the body. So first thing here, I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give this a class of hero. So this is going to be our landing sections, the hero section that fits up the full size of the browser. So before we start coding, I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser and get this live preview working. All right, so I have my live preview over here, and I'll just kind of show you that back and forth as we code. Then eventually I'll have it over here permanently on the side of the screen. But for now, we have nothing to show. We just have the title of our page here. So the first thing in here, I'm going to use a nav tag, and we're going to have multiple pages. So I'm going to say inside of this nav tag, I want, let's go with 5 A's, I think it is, including the logo and the 4 links. So we'll just do an A and then times 5, and that'll populate that. And then we're just going to pound symbol all of these out for now. Then I'm just going to make some space, and here I'm going to add a div called desktop navigation. So we'll just call it desktop, and then we'll abbreviate navigation, say desktop nav. And inside of here, I'm going to place the last 4 of our links. So Command X to cut those, and then Command V to paste them. So now we have our logo up here at the top, and then our desktop nav. So we need to actually add our logo in there. So I'm going to give this first A tag a class of logo so that we know that's what that is later on. And then we also need to have our text in there. So surf period. Next, I'm going to go through the rest of these 4 pages inside the desktop nav and fill out the information for those. So also inside of our nav, I'm going to create another div called mobile nav. So for now, we're just going to show the hamburger menu. So I'm going to do an A tag and pound symbol that out. And then I'm going to use a Unicode to display that. So if we save that up, you'll see here we have our logo, then our links, and then also our hamburger menu that we'll hide on desktop version later. So that's it for the nav. So below that, I'm going to create another div, and in this one, I'm going to call it hero content. So inside of here, we need an H1, and I'm going to call this surf the best. That was our H1 from our design. And then we have a p tag, and I'm just going to grab this text. Below that, we had a button. So I'm just going to do an a tag, and then inside of that, I'm going to do an image tag. And we'll pound symbol the a tag out. And then for the image, I'm going to call images / cal_icon. That's our calendar. And then let's add an alt in there. For the alt, I'll just say cal icon. Outside of the image tag, but still inside of our a tag, we need our actual text, and that's going to say schedule. So here we have our button for now. So we need 2 more things in our hero section, and then we're ready to start styling it. So we need a scroll down icon that we're going to create with text and a line. And then we also need the video that we're going to be displaying in the background. So if I go back to my design, this is what we're going to be creating down here, this nice little scroll. And then this image that we use in the design is going to be replaced with a video of a guy surfing. So outside of hero content, but still in the main hero section, I'm going to create a div called scroll. Inside of that, I'm going to create another div with a class of line. And then I'm also going to add a p tag. So inside of our p tag, we can just say scroll. Below the scroll div, we're going to create another div called video. And inside of here, we're going to use HTML's video tag. For the source, I've made a folder called video, and that's called surf-vid.mp4. We also need to add autoplay and loop on here as well, so that it does those 2 things. So I just pasted in my video folder with our video in there. I'll include this in the project files that will be linked down in the description. So now everything should link up. So if we save this and open up our preview, we have everything we need in here for the hero section. All right, so now I have this permanently on the side of the screen. Some of the stuff that we're gonna write, since we're doing the desktop version first, won't translate very well because this is kind of like a tablet size, but at least we'll still be able to get a picture of what's going on. So now that we're finished with the hero section, we're gonna go ahead and get some of the global things done with the Sass. And then we're also going to finish up the styling for this hero section, and then we might call it there because I don't want each of these coding videos to be very long. So let's go ahead and open up our Sass file. So since we're using Sass, we're going to take advantage of the partials feature. So we're going to be creating a bunch of different Sass files and then importing them all into this main Sass here. So inside of this, we're not actually going to be writing a whole lot of stuff. We're just going to be linking to the other ones, and that's all going to compile then into one main.css file. So that's just going to help us keep things nice and simple. So when we want to edit the hero section, all we have to go is to the hero partial and start editing our code. And it's not just one long mess of code. So here in the main Sass, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to hit Command N. So I'm going to save this as underscore, and we're just going to call this one global.sass. And since we've created that, I'm going to go back to my main.sass, and I'm going to import that global partial. So we'll do an @ symbol, import, so then we just say global. So now everything we write in global will be generated into our CSS file. All right, so let's start off in global. We're just going to target the HTML. And then in here, I'm going to set the font family to Proxima Nova. And then if we don't have that available, a sans serif. So you'll see our text just changed as I saved there. And then we can target the body. And we'll do a width of 100%. So next, I'm going to do an asterisk. So this is going to be a browser reset. So we'll say margin of 0, border of 0, padding of 0, outline of 0, font size of 100%, and vertically aligned baseline. Next, I'm going to set up some of my font sizes. So we'll start with the H1. And here we'll say font family. And I'm going to set that to Didot or a serif if we don't have that available. I'm going to set my main font size for this, which is going to be 70 pixels. And then I'm also going to set the color to white. Next, I'm going to go down and target the H2. And I'm just going to copy all of this and then paste it in the correct format. So if you never used Sass before, you'll notice that I don't have to use any of my normal CSS things like semicolons and curly brackets. That's because I'm using .sass instead of the .scss version. So there's two types of syntax that I talked about in the last video. That's the advantage of using this one. All we have to do is tab in and write all of our styles. And then when we convert this to our CSS, it automatically knows. So if we just quickly save this and then we open up our main.css file, you'll see what we are creating right here so far. So it's imported this partial global right here into our main.sass, and then it's rendered this into the CSS. Pretty cool. So back to the global, we'll move on to the body text, so P. And here I'm just gonna say font size, and we'll do this 20 pixels. And then also I want to add a color of this that we're going to create a variable for. So we need to make a new file. So Command N, and I'm going to save this as underscore, since we need that underscore to notify that this is a partial. And I'm just going to call this vars. We're also going to keep mixins here. So you can say variables in mixins. I'm just going to say vars because I know what's in here, .sass. And then before we forget, I'm actually going to go ahead and import this at the very top, so we don't have any issues. And we also need to fix this indent. Okay, so here in our variables, we need a primary color. And the primary color we're going to be using, if we go back to our design, we have two colors. We have this lighter blue and this really dark black blue. So the dark black blue is going to be our main primary color. And then we'll call this one something like main blue. So to create a variable, all we have to do is have the cache symbol and then write out the name. So primary dash color. And then I'm just going to paste in the color code for that from XD. And then we'll create our next variable for that blue. And I'll just call this main blue. Then I'll paste in the hex code. And then we can save that for now. So now we can go back to global and we can change our headings from white to this variable called primary dash color. And now you'll be able to see that the surf the best H1 is in that blackish blue color. And since we want our H2s to be the same, we'll also put that in. For our P text, we'll also do that color. And then lastly, we need to target the A's. And we're going to say a font size on these of 16 pixels. And then the color is going to be our primary color by default as well. So the last thing I want to put in here for now is our button class. So let's go back to our index. And let's find our button. So here in the hero content, we have our A, and we need to add a class on this of BTN. Just save that up. And then we can go to global. And here I'll target that class, so .btn. And we're going to start with the background color. And I'm going to put that to white. Text decoration of none to remove that underline. Font weight, I'm going to bump this up to 500 since we had that at like a medium size font weight in our design. And I'm going to display this as flex. And the reason I'm doing that is that's a nice little trick to help align the calendar icon and the text together inside of the actual background that we're going to make the button out of. So we'll say display flex, and I want to align the items to the center. So that's centered up in our button. I'm going to give this a fixed width of 200 pixels. And on the height, I'm going to say 60 pixels. Then we can justify the content to the center. And I also want to give this a border radius. and we'll put that to 3 pixels. I'm going to set the text color to our variable called primary color. We're going to make sure that font size is 20 pixels. And then let's save that. So we really can't see much here since this is white. So I'm going to quickly change this to red. And now you'll see our button coming along. So next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say image, and then I'm going to make sure I'm tabbed in. So now technically we're saying .btn, and then we're targeting the image, and then we would open our curly braces in CSS. So that's what that is doing. And we're going to say padding, and I'm going to add this only to the right, and that's going to be 10 pixels. So now we have some space in between our icon and our text. And I'm going to go ahead and create a mix-in now. So I'm going to go back to my variables partial. And I did say we're going to store our one mix-in that we're going to use on this website here as well, just so we don't have to create a partial just for that mix-in. But I would recommend creating its own file if you're going to be making a full website, or at least titling this vars and mix-ins. But we're only going to be using one. So we're going to do this by saying equals, and we're going to do a box shadow. And the reason we're doing this is because we have to have the multiple prefixes such as WebKit and Moz for this to work on all browsers. So we're just going to use the mix-in to make this a little quicker. So I'm going to say in the parentheses a variable of shadow. Then below this, I'm just going to paste in all of our prefixes of box shadow and assign them the variable of shadow, just like that. So now when we go back to global, I'm going to go above the image, and I'm just going to write out plus box shadow so that we know we're using that. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to input the data I want it to display. So I'm going to put 0 pixels space 6 pixels space 22 pixels space 0 pixels. And then in the RGBA, so I'm going to put RGBA. I'm going to open up those parentheses. I'm going to put 0, 0, 0, 0.08. And that's basically taking the shadow that we added on this button in XD and putting it into code. So if we save this, we should have a box shadow on this, which we do. So now we can set this back to white instead of red, and we should be able to see the button somewhat, which we can. So that looks good. The final thing I want to do here is I'm just going to go below our image, and I'm going to say, actually, let's go above since we're going to do this. So we'll say and then we'll do a selector of hover. And then I'm going to drop the opacity down on this to 0.8. So what that is doing is saying the dot button, and then it's just adding this onto it. So it's preventing us from having to make another line that says dot button, and then you would add the hover on here, and then you would open that up and say opacity 0.8. So that's where Sass is really powerful. So if I save this and we just quickly go into our main.css, you'll see in here we are targeting the old classic way of doing this in CSS just by saying and doing that. So that's really cool. And I think that's all we need to do for now in our global styling. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this out. And then we're done with variables for now. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And let's make our next partial. So Command N and Command S to save. I'm going to call this partial _hero.sass. So in this partial, we're going to have everything for this hero section, including the nav since it's in that section as well. So let's not forget to import this to our main.sass. So import, and we'll just call this hero. So now everything we input here will be generated below vars and global in our main.css file. So in our hero partial, I'm going to target the hero, so .hero. And let's first add this a height of 100 of the viewport height, so 100 VH, and then a width of 100%. Then I'm going to add a background color to this. And we're going to use RGBA so we can assign it a color and then lower the opacity. So this is going to be overlaid onto the top of that video so we can see our text just a little bit better. So I'm just going to say RGBA. And in here, the code I'm going to be using is 38, 84, 124. And then for the alpha or the opacity, 0.5. All we have to do for the P tag is add a text shadow to this. And this information is actually going to match the exact box shadow that we added to our schedule button just a second ago. So I'm going to input that as 0 pixels. And I'm going to say .video. So this is the video class we created earlier. And I'll say position, and we're going to position this absolute so that we can position this correctly. And I'm going to say width is going to be 100% of the browser, and the height is going to match this section. So it's going to be 100 VH, viewport height. And I'm going to set the top to 0. So it's going to touch the top, and then the left to 0. Overflow is going to be set to hidden. And then I want this to be in the back, so I'm going to lower the Z index down by 1. So Z index of -1. So you see that positions nicely. Next, what I want to do is target the video HTML element itself. So we'll just put that here. And then we're going to say the min width is going to be 100%. And the min height is also going to be 100%. So next we can target the nav. And with that, I'm going to set a width of 90%. And then a margin of 0 and then auto. So that's going to give us some nice spacing on both sides. I'm going to set the line height to 60 pixels. And then the text align to the right. Before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and hide the mobile nav. So .mobile nav. And we'll just say display of none. So still inside of our nav, I'm going to target the logo now. And that's going to be floated to the left. I'm going to remove the text decoration by setting that to none. I'm going to add this a color of white. Font size, since it's our logo, it's going to be 30 pixels. And then the font weight, we'll bold that to 600. Next, I'm going to say desktop nav. Then inside of that, I'm going to select the A. And we're going to set the color on this to white. So this is now targeting our pages. Text shadow, I'm going to go up here on this P tag and just copy this and then just paste it in here. Text decoration, I'm just going to be set to none. And then let's also add some padding to the left, just so we can space those out a little bit, and we'll put that to 40 pixels. So I'm going to go under the mobile nav now, and we're going to target the hero content section. So .hero content, and this is where our heading, our paragraph, and our button is stored. First thing I'm going to do is set a margin of 30 VH. So that's going to put it just a little bit higher than half the height of the browser. 0 on the right, 0 on the bottom, and 15% on the left, since we have that a little bit indented in our design. Next, I'm going to target the P. We're going to add a color of white to that, then a margin on the bottom of 30 pixels. And then the opacity, I want that to be just a little bit lower, so 0.9. So we save that up, that's what we have. Now I'm going to target the H1, still inside of the .hero content, and I'm just going to add the color of white to this. Next, we can target the .scroll class. So inside of here, we'll say display of flex. Then we'll align item. Align items to the center. I want these to be positioned absolute. And we'll add a right value of 1.7%. And then the bottom will be 63 pixels. Now we need to rotate it so we have it exactly like we do in our design. We're going to do that with transform. And we're going to rotate this 270 degrees. Now for our text, I'm targeting the P, and I'm going to set the color to white. The font size to 16 pixels. And then we need some text shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the same one we've been using since they're all the same. And then just paste that in. Now we need to target the line that's inside of that dot scroll. So I'm just going to say dot line. And we're going to add a height of 2 pixels, a width of 70 pixels, margin on the right. So that's going to space that from the text of 10 pixels, a background color of white. And then I'm also going to add that box shadow that we've been using. So box dash shadow. And then we will input the same numbers from up here. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in. So now you can see our little scroll indicator is down here in the corner. All right, guys, so here is what we've created so far in this video. So we have our video running in the background. We've got our navigation set up. Our overall hero section is completed and it fills up the entire browser. So that is it for this video. We've created several SAS documents and partials to make this function. So I'm going to call it here for today. In the next video, we'll continue from right here where we left off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more design and code related content. Make sure you turn that notification bell on so you don't miss a video. You can follow me on all my social media at Taylor Edwards. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.